Michael, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, with the shortened schedule this year, do you have a different way of navigating and approaching the season? And have you had conversations with other coaches, maybe within the conference or maybe in the Big Ten, and trying to see how they're trying to approach the season logistically?
Well, it's safety is paramount. I mean, we have to be safe. We don't have any wiggle room as far as being canceled. It seems like every week now there's a team or two that cannot play. So we understand that, and it's really comes down to socially people involved in your organization making the right decisions. Because if the virus should hit, it can take a lot of people out with it, and we've seen that thus far in college football, professional sports as well. So we're all really aware of that. That's the navigation part, to be quite honest. 6 games, we understand it's gonna come fast, it's gonna go fast. It's only 6 games. When you think about the NFL, they're almost halfway through a season. A lot of these teams have played 8 games. We're just starting. So we're on the down end of it, on the back end of what would be a 12-game season, but we have a 6-game season, and we're very excited about having the opportunity to play.
If I can, if I can just have a quick follow-up. With the less amount of games, does it make this week's game so much more paramount to win? Because if you start 0-1, then you only have 5 more games to make that up and compete for the conference title.
Well, I think for me as a coach and for a former player, they're all important to win. Whether it's 6, whether you play 12, they're all important to win. Winning your first game gives you a lot of momentum. And you make the point, you're right. There's not a lot of margin for error. I think every team that's involved in this Pac-12 situation, we understand we have 6 of them. They're all important. Every win you get, you feel like you're in the race. You always want to control your destiny, but when you don't win, all of a sudden you got to count on other people controlling and helping you out. So if you can win, you can control it. If you don't, then you got to look for other people losing.
Now you can go, Michelle.
Okay, thanks, Coach. You've had the testing protocols in place for a little bit now, and now you've got games moving forward. So what about your satisfaction with the safety protocols to this point, and any concerns moving forward now that you're going to be out of your own bubble, so to speak?
It's been outstanding. And I think our university, the medical staff and all the people that are involved in doing this and planning it, you can imagine all the planning that goes into this. And then it takes the players and the coaching staff and all the people that work in football to understand the importance as well. It's not so much when we're here, it's when we leave here. What do you do? Who are you socializing with? Who are you allowing in your circle? That's the critical one. And I think for the most part, our players, our coaching staff, and all the people involved have done a nice job. You're talking about the trainers, the equipment guys, the weight coaches, everyone. Everyone leaves the building. And once they leave, this morning we're safe. We want to continue to be safe. Who you socialize with when you leave the building is kind of important.
Oh.
Hi, Coach. So under these current conditions, are you traveling with a smaller than normal party to road games? And if so, what kind of impact, if any, does it have on you?
We are. As far as the players go, I think the number is 74, but we generally never travel that many anyway, unless it's obviously against Arizona and we go on the road. And that's a game that I try to dress all the players. I try to give them 1 at home and 1 on the road. But this year, that won't allow us to do that. I think it's 74 max. We're right about at that number. The other part, parties that have been on our aircraft, with all, whoever they've been, that's been kind of cut too. So, yeah, the load is a lot lighter. We're fortunate we have 3 road games. 2 of them are flights that are not very long, and the Arizona game is a bus ride.
Okay, Alan.
Hi, Herm. I think I saw that you said today that your pregame meal on Saturday will be at 4:45 a.m. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is a correct statement.
So what time will you guys be getting up then, and what time will you want your guys in bed the night before?
Well, not the night before, like it starts today. I told them they need to start getting their sleep. That's important. Now, it's easy for me to say. I'm not going to call them up and see where they're at. But I told them this is things that come on you fast, and you need to get your rest. Young people, they like to burn the candle at both ends. But you're an athlete and you got to play. You got to get up early on a Saturday morning to play this game and to function. So it's both teams are sitting in the same situation. So 4:45. I would assume we start breakfast at 4:45. No one will be there at 4:45 except probably me. I get up really early. I would think the rest of the team will probably get there probably within 30 minutes prior to that. But that's the wake up call.
Hunter.
Hi, Herm. I saw Graham Harrell said on the radio, I believe this morning, that the USC offense isn't necessarily going to look to out-scheme the ASU defense, that they're just going to run their system and execute. Do you think that gives your defense a better chance of maybe stopping that group, since they're not necessarily going to be attacking where you're weak, so to say?
Well, I don't know that so much. They run their system, and that's what good offenses do. They do what they do. Last time I checked, they're a pretty good offense. They really don't worry about the opponent's defense so much. It's how they run their system. They have certain routes they run when they read the coverage. They know these are the routes, these are the things that are open. These are the things that the quarterback's going to go to. So he's in his second season now with a talented group of receivers. They have some good runners. They have a veteran offensive line. So this group's been together for a year offensively. And he's right. They're going to run their system. Anytime you watch them on tape, that's what they do.
Chris Hartman.
Coach, at some of these offensive positions, running back, wide receiver, tight end, maybe, how much of that with your personnel is relatively locked in, and how much is going to continue to evolve, do you think, over the first few games?
Oh, it'll continue to evolve. With so many young guys, you're going to give them opportunities to play. And I think as this thing goes, we'll find out, who's who. It kind of takes care of itself when you allow guys on the field. And the one thing we've always done here, we've given young guys opportunities. And with that, there's going to be some errors involved in that, and you got to live with it. We lived with that the last 2 years. But I just think as this thing goes, by week 3, we'll probably have a pretty good idea of what it looks like on both sides of the ball. But the first couple games, practicing is one thing, but then when you play, and after you play, you get to look at it and you figure out, was it too big for some guys? Did we give some young guys too many plays? Did we not give them enough plays? You can't find that out until you get into competition.
Back to Hunter real quick.
Yeah, kind of a follow-up on my last question. You mentioned that their offense is pretty daunting and they're going to do their thing. Does that concern you when you have a new scheme defensively going up against an offense that has guys like Slovis and is as powerful as they claim to be?
No, we're going to run our defense too, by the way. That's what we're going to do. We're going to run our coverages. We're going to run our fronts. We're going to do what we do. That's what good teams do. They do what they do. And as the game is played out, there's always going to be some adjustments. We don't know exactly what they're going to do. We have a pretty good idea, but they haven't played yet. There might be a wrinkle or two that they run, maybe some different personnel groups, who knows? And we're going to have to be able to adjust to that, both offensively and defensively. What are they going to do defensively? They're running a similar defense in which we ran here the last 2 years. What are the things that we're going to have to adjust to? I think this game early, once we find out the rhythm of the game and the flow of the game, that's where the adjustments come in on the sideline.
Coach, I know that you wanted to have a much shorter offseason than you ended up having, but looking back as the preseason almost comes to an end right now, as you try to implement new systems on both sides of the ball, I don't want to say blessing in disguise because obviously the circumstances are pretty dire, but at the same time, do you feel now that you're kind of looking back at it, that it really has helped implement everything you wanted on both sides?
Well, I think that's a part of it. when you implement offenses and defenses, you have so much to put in. And now it's a matter of what do you do well? You want to simplify things. You want to make sure the players are clear and they're clear-eyed and they're not thinking. And that's the key now going forward is it's not the volume of things you like to do. It's being efficient at what you do. And I think that's the big thing we talked about and I talked about to the coaching staff this week. Simplification is critical now that we're going to play a game. The rotation of the players, of who's going in, and what situations, that is very important. We haven't done that. We haven't played a game, right? And so the signals that are being called from the sideline now on offense and defense, we have not done that live. So all these things are a part of it. How we communicate to the coaches in the box, to the coaches on the field, all those things as well. So it's the first time, and there'll probably be a couple misfires, but we'll adjust and we'll be okay.
Michael.
Yeah, Coach, to get back to, in the way what you were saying in the beginning about, the play finally being here, and you always talk about players like not burning up, obviously, all that hype and adrenaline before the game. But since it's been the delay, I mean, we know you have that calm demeanor on the sidelines, but even for the coaches, you think you're going to have to remind them to kind of, take not that you want the energy down, but just not get too overhyped because the game is finally here.
Oh, it's here. And you can feel it. Coaches are very short now with their words. Players are kind of like, okay, we get it. There's this sense of, okay, there's a game coming. It's coming 5-6 days from now. Right? We're going to play a football game. And you can feel it. There's a different switch now because the reality of a football game is about to take place for us. And with that, I think details, the focus, conversations aren't very long anymore with players. It's not a conversation. It's almost, this is what we're doing, right? We don't need to talk about it. This is what we're going to do.
Nick King.
Herm, that early wake up, is that something that is just when you go from being a player to a coach, it just automatically your sleep schedule changes?
For us, we've been fortunate. We've always practiced in the morning, but that's practice. We never played a live game. I mean, there's a different feeling when you're playing a game, right? So first time I ever played the game at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, players as well. So for both teams, it'll be interesting. How does the game start? That's something I'm going to kind of look forward to. How does it start with a stadium that's not going to be full by any stretch of the imagination, as we know, right? So who's going to bring the energy? And does it take a quarter for both teams to get started? I don't know. I really don't know. What's the pace of the game that early in the morning? I wish I could tell you. I don't know. I think we'll just deal with it when it presents itself, and then from there we'll adjust.
Ken.
Yeah, following up on that, coaches and players, NFL, college, have all said one thing that's really hard to get used to is bringing that own energy on your sideline. The 63 players who won't be in a game at a time, what do you tell them? Do you coach them a little differently and say, hey, guy, you can't just stand there and watch and not say anything? Or
Well, I think what's going to happen for both staffs probably, you're going to hear coaches coaching the game from the sideline, right? Because you can actually hear, especially defensively, you can hear the defensive coach hollering at you. So that's going to be kind of interesting. It's going to be like if you guys go to practice, you guys know how coaches are hollering in practice. I anticipate the same thing happening in the game, in a live game now. Now, there will be some of that music in the background, maybe that might help, but I see a whole lot of coaching going on right now on the sideline.
Zach.
Hey, Coach, 18 years ago, the other day was your world famous speech, Play to Win the Game. I'm sure everyone remembers that one. Jaden Daniels was 1 year old at the time. Is there anything that, did that ever come up? And at the same time, was there a lot that coach didn't know about football?
You say the last question was what?
Is there something that you 18 years ago didn't know or still had to learn? Do you look back and see that man is inexperienced compared to now?
I've been in this for, I don't know, over 30 years. I learn something every time I walk on the field. If I don't, shame on me. Shame on me. I mean, that's what this game gives you. You're always learning. And when you become a coach, I think you learn more about situations that appear in games and practice, decisions you make, watching the tape, how you maybe can adjust something a little bit different than you thought of, 30 years ago. I mean, whatever it may be. I mean, I joke. I've forgotten more football than most people can remember, right? Because you've been around it so long. But you're always learning. I mean, I'm a real believer of that. Because every day you need to learn something, and you can if you pay attention. And I'm pretty stickler on details and watching. And football has evolved from when I played high school football to right now. The way the game has changed. And then in the college level and the professional level, you see a lot of college football into pro football right now. Lo and behold, it's here. It's everywhere. The way the game is played on offense. And the things you have to do on defense now. This is a game of scoring. It's almost like 7-on-7 on the grass anymore when you watch football. Scoring is just kind of part of it. It's just you anticipate it. When you see a game 17-10, you kind of shake your head, right? Well, as a defensive guy, you think that's pretty good, right? Most people don't want to watch those games. You don't see a lot of those games anymore because of the forward pass and the way offenses can create the ability to put you in space defensively. And with the skill of the players that throw the ball and catch the ball and run with the ball, and the skill of the defensive players that can run after the quarterback and play in coverage. So it's an entirely different game. The rules are the same. They've changed some, but the athleticism and how they play with the football is different than it was 30 years ago. It's not even close.
Michelle.
Hey, Coach, you're playing USC. You guys recruit a lot of the same players. How important is this game just you're going to have a national platform for you and your program. So how important is this game and how much are you looking forward to that part of this?
Well, it's very important when you're on national television. You represent your conference. This is a Pac-12 game. Both teams are representing the Pac-12, which I think is very important. It's the conference we play in. Both of these teams recruit the same players, especially when it comes to the Southern California area. But I think it lets the national audience watch our conference, and you want it to be a competitive game by both parties. So you want to brand a football that people look at and go, oh, okay, we see what they're doing out there, right? And so it's part of it. We know that, and I think anytime you can play USC, a team that has a national brand. I mean, it had the same brand when I was leaving high school. I was recruited by USC. It had a national brand then. You're talking about 1972 when I graduated from high school. I mean, everybody knew who USC was. I mean, so that hasn't changed a whole lot. So anytime you play a team like that with a national brand on national television, it's a big game.
Take our last couple of questions, so get them in. Nick King.
Herm, do you have a favorite memory from a season opener, either as a player or a coach?
Probably my dad. My dad coming to the first game that ever watched me play football. My dad didn't have the opportunity to watch me play high school football. He worked 3-4 hours away from where I lived, from where we had a home. Didn't get the opportunity to watch me as a college player either. And he came to the Ram game in the Coliseum and watched me play my first football game. And it was Joe Namath was the quarterback. I can remember like it was yesterday. That was my first NFL interception against Joe Namath. My dad watched it. I'll never forget that.
Michael.
Yeah, coach, to your point of obviously coaches obviously coaching from the sideline and not having any fans and people being able to hear, is it almost like you have to be cognizant of not saying too much because somebody on the other sideline could pick that up and adjust right away as well?
They're gonna have their own problems on the sideline. If they're listening to what coaches say, they're gonna be in trouble. Because the offensive guys will be hollering at the offensive players, and the defensive coaches will be hollering at the defensive players, and it's gonna be fun to watch.
Any other questions? Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, coach.
All right, thank you. Have a nice day.
Later, coach.
Thank you.